Yeah, you're going to have a quick presentation from the Met Police. I've seen some faces I've already spoken to earlier on today. So you're going to hear from myself. My name is PC Mafemi. I'm a police officer in the Met Outreach team. And you're also going to hear from DC Anning, who is a detective constable in the police. So I'm going to start by telling you what motivated me to join the police and how I started off my career in the police. So I was born in Nigeria and I moved here in 2008. And I went to Lewisham College. Some of you may know Lewisham College. But throughout my time in college, I was motivated by getting a career that would pay me the most money. You know, I was motivated by money. I was young, and that's what I wanted to do. So I thought I'll get a job in investment banking, and that should pay me the most money. So I went on to Cass Business School, and again, everything was going to plan. I got a graduate job even before I graduated. So I signed my contract in January, and I was due to graduate in July. My first week of my role, I absolutely hated it. I thought, actually, this finance job is not the one for me. So I started looking at the roles. And I was at Houston Station one day, and I saw an armed police officer stood there with his machine gun and his Glock. And I thought, this guy looks kind of cool. You know, I could do that for 35 years. So I looked online, and I looked at what I had to do, what the entry criteria was for me to become a police officer in the Met. And I realized that once I did my training and I completed my probation, I could go on to become a firearms officer. And that's exactly what I did. I did 4.5 years on response team in Peckham. So response team is the team that goes to 999 calls. So I was out there helping people. So I did that for 4.5 years. Then I became a firearms officer in royalty and specialist protection. So I got to see the Queen and Prince Williams and the royal family. So that's the kind of stuff you do on a day-to-day role. Now the good thing about it is that that's kind of stuff that you get to see that normal member of publics don't get to see, you know. And there's just so many career opportunities in the Met. You know, I enjoyed my time so much that I told my twin brother, who was working at Morgan Stanley at the time, and he left Morgan Stanley to join the Met simply because of the career opportunities in the Met. And the Met is kind of a competitive employer. You know, our entry criteria for our apprenticeship scheme starts on £31,686,000. So it just shows you what's available.
Good morning, all. My name is Eric Annan. I'm a police officer, but I'm a detective constable. My career spans about 12 years. So I started off with the British Transport Police as a police constable, and then I became a detective after 2.5 years. At the end of 2018, I then moved across to the Met. In the Met, I worked on the safeguarding unit at Brixton, where I investigated domestic violence, rape cases, and child abuse cases. And that's what actually set me off to go on to a specialist team, which is called the Operation Winterkey. Now, Operation Winterkey is the team that actually investigated the allegations that were made against Jimmy Savile and Rolf Harris. So what I actually investigate is allegations of historic child sexual abuse cases, which involves people of prominence and also institutions that were actually responsible for safeguarding young people or vulnerable people. For me, very much like David, I come from Ghana 20 years ago, and I remember walking down in Norbury, London Road, and I came across a police officer walking towards my direction, and he was immaculately dressed. He had the bit helmet, not so much like David's, but it's a bit more of a bit helmet, and he was absolutely immaculate. So I looked at him and I smiled and I said to myself, I'm going to be a police officer. For me, it was a uniform that did it for me. And then, you know, I didn't believe at the time that I could actually become a police officer immediately. So what I did was I joined a railway company dealing with antisocial behaviors on the train. So I was accredited in the same way as the police committee support officers. So that gave me a very good insight into being a police officer. After that, I became a special constable. So I did that for about a year before I eventually became a police constable. So that's about me. I'll come back and I'll talk to you about, a bit more about what you can actually do in a Met.
So in the Met, we'll just talk about the entry pathways available to you. We have 2 entry pathways that you would consider. We have 3. One is the degree holder. You already have to have a university degree. So I'm going to exclude that one just because of the crowd I'm dealing with today. So the relevant entry criteria for you guys would be the apprenticeship scheme or the initial police learning development program. Okay. Now the difference between the 2 of them is with the apprenticeship scheme, you earn a university degree at the end of it. So it's a 3-year program starting on £31,686,000 and going up to £48,000 after 6 years. But after 3 years, you'd have earned your university degree. Now, with the other pathway is for people who don't want to spend time at university. Some people may feel like they're less academic, so they don't want to be in university. So the other program is a 2-year program. You start off on exactly the same money, but then you only do 2 years, and after 2 years you can specialize. And that's when you choose where you want to go. If you want to be a firearms officer, a detective like Eric, or decide to go up in ranks. You might decide to become a sergeant, an inspector, etc. Okay, so those are the pathways available to you. Now, with the apprenticeship scheme, because I've had a lot of interest about the apprenticeship scheme, with the apprenticeship scheme, you do an initial 17 weeks at university. So you get the choice out of Brunel University, East London University, University of West London, and Anglo-Ruskin University. Those are the universities that we're currently working with. So you do an initial 17 weeks at university, then you go on to your borough, whatever police station you'll be working out of, and you do 8 weeks coach policing. That's where you're working with other new recruits and experienced police officers, just so you understand the things that you have learned at university in a more practical way. Okay, and during your 3 years in your apprenticeship scheme, you will fluctuate between spending time at university and spending time on your local borough. Now, the pass mark is 40%. That's the minimum grade that you should get for you to achieve what you're supposed to. 40 is the minimum. It's like any university you go to, you have first class is 70 plus, 2-2 I think is 60 and above. So it's exactly the same structure. But for you to carry on with the apprenticeship scheme, you need to pass, and the pass mark is 40%. And it's open book as well. So it's not challenging if you put your mind to it, you know. You do have a dissertation you have to do at the end of it, but that's just like any other bachelor's in science honors degree that you do. Any questions about the apprenticeship scheme?
Two questions. One is the subject at university, and the other is the entry requirements. Is it A-levels or any equivalent, and is it 3 or 2?
Very good questions. I'll let DC Anang answer that.
Thank you very much. I think I will actually illustrate what David said. So for the entry requirement, just to recap that, you need 2 A-levels to be able to get onto the degree apprenticeship scheme. You also need a grade C and above GCSE English. So these are the requirements for it. Now, in terms of the equivalence of the A-levels is a level 3 BTEC, MVQ, and any other vocational qualifications that actually is stated within the UK qualification framework. So it's not just A-level, but A-level and equivalent. Now, the other thing is that we've got people that didn't actually do their education in the UK. Now, that's okay. So you need to contact an organization called UK ENIC. So ENIC, UK ENIC. Now, they are the organization that would actually evaluate your qualification from abroad, and they will be able to say that it is equivalent to this level in the UK or that level. So once that's is actually checked, we will accept that. Now, in addition to the educational qualifications, we also have statutory requirements as well for anybody who wants to become police officer in the UK. So one, you have to be 18 years to start your training. But you can start your application at the age of 17, but you will not start training until you are 18. So that's one. And two, you must have lived in the United Kingdom, anywhere in the United Kingdom, for 3 years or more. So that's another requirement. Now, the very final requirement is that you must have either a UK nationality or a non-UK nationality with an unrestricted right to work and live in the United Kingdom, which means that you must have an indefinite leave to remain or a settlement status, settled status. So that's for that. Now, going on to the final bit of our presentation, I would like to talk to you about the various opportunities within the Met. So if you join the Met under the degree apprenticeship scheme, that means that you'll be studying at university and working with the Met for 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, then all options will be open for you. So option one is to specialize in any of the areas that the Met actually operate in. And option two, you can actually move up in ranks as in promotion. So if you choose to specialize, there are two main pathways. So the first pathway is the uniform pathway, like David. So you can become a uniform officer, firearms officer, riot police, drone operator. You can become a mounted house officer, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, if you choose to become a detective at the end of the 3 years program, you can also specialize like me. So I specialize in investigating allegations of historic child sexual abuse cases, which involves people of prominence in society, and also investigating institutions that were tasked to look after vulnerable people. You could also become a detective investigating fine arts. You can investigate murder, counter-terrorism, and again, the list goes on and on and on. I always say to people that if you take the police and you compare it with any other organization outside of the police, you find that if you find a job outside of the police and you get bored of that role, normally there are a very limited amount of options available to you. But if you join the police and you get bored of becoming a firearm officer, like the way David did, you can then become an outreach officer, or you can become a mounted officer, or you can even become a detective. And again, you don't have to leave the organization to do something new. It's a very, very rewarding job, and I've really enjoyed it. I've been in the job for 12 years, and I will actually recommend this role to anybody. We understand that we want people to come and join us and stay, but we understand that people will come in and they would want to leave and do something else. But remember, when you leave, you're leaving with skills, knowledge. So you, as a police officer, you get communication skills, leadership skills, organizational skills, analytical skills, and the skills goes on. And you can take that with you to any industry if you leave the police. Of course, we want you to stay, but if that's the path that you choose, that's fine. You've gained a lot of value to do that. Your education with us is free. We will be paying for everything. So I say to people, and one last example, you've got two 18-year-olds. So one decides to go to mainstream university, let's say, for argument's sake, LSBU, King's College, to do a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. Come the end of the 3 years, they're 21 years old, and they've got a degree. But let's face it, they've also got debt. Now, if you join the Met on an apprenticeship scheme, come the end of the 3 years, you have a degree, all right. Yeah. So you get a degree, all right, which is a Bachelor of Science in Policing Practice. Now, that's a public service degree, really. you don't have a debt because we pay for everything. But you've also made about £2,100 every month after tax, in addition to the free travel that you get in London, which is the buses, the tube, and everything. So you can save money as well as have your free education, plus have 3 years solid work experience in the police as well. So this is what I say to people. Thank you very much. Maybe David has a bit more to say. All right, thank you very much. Thank you.